Absolutely.
Right. It's 7 o'clock committee meeting, planning committee, Wednesday the 31st of January. So, order of the meeting. First up, we have public participation, 15 minutes allotted to that. Do we have anybody, Town Clerk?
Nobody's registered to speak. You have 2 members of the public present.
No. Oh, look, going once, going twice, gone. In that case, we'll move on to agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence substitution. So I think we're missing the chair, Councillor.
Okay.
And is that for personal reasons?
Personal commitments, yes.
So if we could note that, please.
Noted.
Next up is agenda item 2 to receive the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of January 2024. Can I have a second for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Bertie. Do we have any comments on that? No, in that case, can I have a vote for approval, please? Right, agenda item 3 is members' declarations. So first off, I want to declare that the applicant for DM 24004 Southern Sheeting has given a presentation to the council to assist with the council's environmental agenda, although they were not and have not been employed by the council. However, for transparency, a dispensation to consider the application for the members of the committee is in place. Can I have any other declarations, please?
Thank you. I'm a Mid-Sussex District Councillor on the District Planning Committee. I reserve the right to change my opinion. The future date should be analyses, information, reports come to my attention on these applications. Secondly, I am a neighbour to Southern Sheeting, so I'll just put that for record. I don't know whether that needs to be, not to this site, but the site
Not
at
to this side.
Turners Hill Road.
I think it's not to this side, so I think you're okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the same declaration as the Mid-Sussex District Council on the District Planning Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a Sussex District Councillor on the licensing committee, although I don't think we have any licensing applications.
No, we don't. And I'd also like to declare I live at 24 Hurst Farm Road, which is the other end of the road, some half a kilometre away. So I don't believe that's a debt I need to worry about that. But I wish to just declare that for transparency purposes. Right, moving on to agenda item 4, which is Chairman's announcement. We've got a couple to go through. Firstly, the Chair, Clerk and Ward Councillors went to a site visit for DM 24004 Southern Sheeting last week at the invitation of the applicant to better understand the area of outstanding natural beauty and landscaping implications. Secondly, the Chair, myself and the Clerk met with the Section 106 officer at the Mid-Sussex District Council to further discuss the allocations and methodology for allocating funds and for the monitoring of expenditure or lack of in consideration of the legal agreements. And thirdly, Councillor Mrs. Bertie attended the Mid-Sussex District Council Planning Committee and represented the Town Council and residents regarding the land at QBH. Despite a good argument, the application has been accepted. This was a delegated decision to ask that an East Grimston member attended to speak, and members are asked to note this.
Noted.
Yeah, we have been advised that application 23-3073 18 the High Street is to go to committee on the 8th of February. This was at the top town, you may remember from a couple of planning committees ago. The committee supported the application. And the planning officer's recommendation is to refuse the application. And that was, I believe, in the heritage, to protect the heritage of the High Street is the main reason for refusal there. So that's, and lastly, Mid-Sussex District Plan draft plan consultation is in Regulation 19, and looking at the legal implications of that. This agenda sets out the consultation and it will come back here to this committee But the committee members are urged to come back to us and submit if you have any comments around that in good time, so we can get any draft back. So please do look at that plan, and if you do have any recommendations or suggestions, do please come back to us. I think the main regulation 19 was the legal aspects of that rather than the content per se of the site applications. And then lastly, we've got quite a lot of chair's announcements for a change. Another one, thank you, Councillor Whittaker, for bringing it to my attention. There's now a revised NPPF, National Policy Planning Framework, I think, that's been issued. And I won't go through all the details, but the summary really says it all. The changes to the NPPF are advantageous for the council, both in respect to applications received prior to the 19th of December, and that is due to the removal of the buffer. There has to be a buffer over and above the 5-year land supply, and in respect to new applications assessed against the 4-year requirements. So there's a 5-year and a 4-year map, but the summary is it's advantageous and they're removing the buffer. Therefore, we and the Mid Sussex District Council are still including that buffer, but they don't technically have to under the new framework. So that's it for Chair's announcements. So if we move on to more substantive business, agenda item 6, which is protected tree applications there. There was no removals, but do we have any comments on that? We normally put this to the tree.
The recommendation is to support the applications unless there's any adverse report from the tree officer.
Tree officer, thank you. Do we have any comments on those? No, in that case, we'll move on to agenda item 7, which is obviously looking at.
Could you take a vote on that?
Oh, sorry, for
on the trees that you would support approval subject to no adverse report from the tree officer.
Thank you, Town Clerk. So can I propose that we put those forward to the tree officer with no adverse comments? Can I have a second, please? Thank you, Councillor Deacon. Can I have approval? Can I have a vote for approval, please?
Thank you, Chair.
Right, now I can move on to agenda item 7. So we've got two tabled for discussion today. First up, now I've got to figure out how to use this lovely piece of technology. Hopefully I have done the right one. Then I hit share screen. Where's probably wrong? Nearly. It's thinking. I don't know what happened there. It had a little glitch. So the first application, please note it is 24004, not 23004 on the application. So this is a proposed demolition of existing commercial buildings and the construction of replacement storey buildings, new office buildings, conversion of former granary, and change of use of existing dwellings for a trade counter, along with a number of changes to storage yards, as well as single-storey replacement dwellings and detached garage. I could go on, but I think you can read for yourself. So this is Southern Sheeting. I think we've got Mr. Hobbs here today representing them. In terms of the actual application itself, if we move on. So do we know where the application is? This is along past the rugby club, St Hill. This is along towards the end before we get to the road that goes to Worth, Sharpthorne, Worth. So if you come along up Turners Hill Road, turn left, pass up to the rugby club. This is the building on the right, just past the rugby club. Do people know where I mean?
So past St Hill.
The junction, then turn right.
Turn right.
Toward Dearsley.
Yeah.
Up to that.
And this is actually Dearsley Bikes, we'll come to in a moment. So
this is their premises.
This is currently their premise, and they've currently got two sites, one of which is the one off Turners Hill Road to the right.
I know that.
This is not that site, this is the one along is it in one lane or does that stop at
West Forest Road?
Thank you. So this is the sign, this is a current picture of where it is, and you can see here hopefully the red outline, and that is where the proposal, this building application is looking. So you can see there's a slight change here in terms of they're looking to extend, I think, the car parking along here and to slightly extend some of the, and we'll come on when you see some of the pictures, you'll see exactly what they're trying to do here. But that gives you a sense of, it's broadly covering a lot of the existing plot, but there is some additional land just to the south here that is being part of the application. So again, this gives you a sense of, again, just zooming in pretty much where we are, and you can see the buildings that are currently in situ here, and there's a granary and various other workhouses and outbuildings and a trade counter. And I think Dearsley, if I'm not mistaken, the Dearsley Park's just up here. And on the right-hand side here, it sort of gives you a different view with all the trees, and I think we may discuss that in a moment, a number of trees that are currently on site within that planning application. So this is a view, existing section plan here at the top, and I believe it's a new one at the bottom. New one at the bottom. Let me just check this on the next slide. Apologies. Yeah, this is existing. This is existing plan here. I think the key point to note here is if you look at the elevation drop off here. So this is the road over here, and you can see how it currently it is in relation to that road, and obviously it drops off to the left hand side here. I think when we then come on to the next slide, you can see that if you can, and it's hard to tell, but if you can see they've actually, the proposal is that they actually dig down and actually drop the surface, and I think the intention there is that actually from the road, it's not as visually impacting, although they are large obviously buildings, they are lowered down, so actually the height from the road is actually not as impactful. And again, you can just see here the other types of buildings, outbuildings. These are the storage, I think storage racks in sort of the car park sort of road. I think one thing that I spoke to the chair, the intention is that, and the reason for moving is they have to move out the existing premise at Southern Cheating on the Turners Hill Road, and they're looking to move to here, so this will be their main place for all of their work. It's also worth noting currently a lot of the lorries that currently come here have already come from that site. So in terms of additional traffic, it's not expected to have any additional traffic. I must admit, one of the first thoughts I had when I saw this application was, is it going to lead, it's quite particularly, that road can be, you know, if for those that drive it, it's not the widest at points, and if you've got quite large lorries, but ultimately the traffic going to there is current traffic that's just travelling between a lot of the two sites. There won't be, it's not perceived to be that much more in terms of traffic. I think this was just to show the main buildings that are being used here, and you can see this is an existing pond. I think this is, and maybe Mr. Hobbs could correct me, I think there's a car parking, is all this section here, he's nodding. So this is where the car park, and I think there's an extension to the car park on this right-hand side here. So this is really where the existing sort of fields is being taken up. They are expanding the car park there to obviously cater for moving on to one site. And again, this would have been better and answer my question. So yeah, this is exactly what I was referring to. So this is the car parking here. You've got the main building here. You've got another building here and a number of storage racks, etc. over here, if I can say that. The main entrance is not changing. So this is the current entrance, and I don't believe they're not looking to change that. And you can still get to Dearsley Bike in a minute. I think there's a photo that shows you can still travel along here to get to Dearsley Bike, and any cyclists who wish to, you know, go to the bike shop, go on a bike ride afterwards up this way, they're not, they can not have to go through the main complex here. And this is what it looks like. I think personally, and we'll go discussion in a moment, you know, it's a very contemporary design. I like the design. I think the use of water harvesting, the use of solar panels shows, again, sustainability has been, you know, embedded as part of this. And you can sort of see here, so this is the road here. So you can see this is the main building here, as well as the conversion of these two. And you've got the storage racks here. So you're very much coming along here, then travelling, and then you've got, I think, Dearsley Bikes over there. So that sort of gives you a sense of perspective of height. I think it's a key point here. Normally a building like that would be up here. I think the fact they've lowered it down is in an attempt to obviously minimise the impact visually. And again, just other shots just showing you the way it is. And again, that's just looking at it from the other side. So the entrance is over here, and then they come along here and through to here. You've got storage racks here, and the main warehouse there. So that's the next one. So really, I think we've got Councillor Belty. Do we normally open it up to the other councillors first? There's sorry,
Normally
Mr.
ask the ward councillor to make a recommendation.
Fine, even if he's not part.
Unfortunately, our
Yes.
councillor isn't part of the committee, so I think what we're going to need to do is perhaps ask another committee member to make a recommendation, and then we go to the questions, perhaps invite councillor Belty as ward member to speak at that point.
Fine. So I think no, it's your son. Sorry, it's Mr. Belty.
Councillor
Belty. Unfortunately, he's not a member of the planning committee, hence why I cannot pass over to him. So I think the one thing that is outstanding, and this is I'm personally in favour of this. I think it's done in a way that it's an existing site. It's utilising that site. Sustainability is a big factor. I think they've taken into consideration the impact of having the buildings on it. I think there is one outstanding a need for an ecological report, which I believe was outstanding, and therefore, my recommendation would be for approval, pending no adverse findings on that ecological report. So if I could have a second, and then thank you, Councillor Peacock. Do we have any comments? Councillor Peacock.
Yeah, I think looking at the design, I think the first thing, it's an existing brownfield site. It is in the AONB. However, the subject sheeting does have an operation there, or it's a site where existing deliveries are made and there is an operation. So we're not actually building on a greenfield site. But also, obviously, I believe cutting away, lowering the actual ground level of the new building. So it is in line or similar to the existing ridge line of the existing buildings. It's got, as you said, rainwater harvesting, solar panels in line with new building regs. There won't be any seemingly, I would have thought, adverse increase in traffic movements, because there are large delivery lorries still going there. Personally, I would prefer to see Southern Sheeting still as a neighbour. This in Turners Hill Road, this would facilitate that ending. But I would propose this or second it for approval, to be honest. Why there's a shortage of smaller units for businesses. It's an existing business, very successful, been here many years. And if we don't build on this, where are they going to go? Move out the area or build on a fresh greenfield site, which I wouldn't support. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We've got Councillor Mrs. Belty.
Thank you. Can I ask a question? Is it for the sole use of some sheeting? There's no subdividing or subletting on the site?
That's my understanding. Can I?
There are two businesses
Deal
that run out
fine.
of it. Well, there's also a second.
Is there, Councillor?
There's a second business that runs alongside Southern Sheeting, but they're existing there. They're already there. So it's another part of the
It's not
family business.
proposed to.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
related business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're
It's already
not,
there. This isn't
it's
adding
not
it.
so big that it needs additional users in the, no. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I too am supportive. Can I just a couple of questions? One is on the elevation. The ground obviously drops away significantly in levels from the road down
Yes.
to the countryside. Now, one thing that the planning officer will be looking at is the effect on this is obviously in AONB, which I think is DP 14. And also it's in the countryside, DP 12. So they look quite sensitive at that at the district council. Is there additional tree screening on the lower element of it? On your landscaping plan, it suggests that there is. On that section, this side, just below the car park, and particularly on this bit that sort of juts out.
I believe they are putting new trees along this edge here to screen it off from this area here. So I
Yeah.
think the intention here is to screen it from the area.
Yeah, yeah.
The rest of the area,
Because that-
outstanding natural.
That will be important for, for the A or B, for protection and the effect of the new buildings, with the size, because they're quite large. But I appreciate they've been sunken down into the ground, which is good. Other thing is the cladding. Has consideration been given to sort of potentially green cladding rather than sort of grey cladding, again, to mask the visual effect of it? But overall, I'm very supportive. Existing business, which is very successful in the town. In terms of access, this access is probably safer than the existing one on the Turners Hill Road with lorries coming in and out of that area. So, overall, I agree with your recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Whitaker. Councillor Gibbs.
Yes, thank you. Not Gibson, I don't quite.
I always have to catch myself.
First time. Yes, I support as well. The design is quite easy on the eye in terms of it's not easy to get an industrial commercial premises that looks okay. It normally kind of looks a little bit, yeah. So, it's, I think the design's quite good. I really like the, solar panels. I think that'd be good, if we can promote that sort of thing going forward, generally speaking, it's a good way forward. And, I would agree that we would want to, if we were to go for approval, subject to any adverse findings on the ecological, studies, but I would be in favour.
Thank you. Any other before we proceed?
All been said.
All been said. So, Councillor Mr. Belty, would you like to add some comments?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so I've got no objection to the application. I'm very grateful for Mr. Hobbs for showing himself and the chair of planning around in the town park. It was really helpful to see it on site and to understand the levels and the fact that there will be no more visible from the roads, to take on board what the council raises about the sort of screening. I think the intention will actually be safe for people using the park, and it will bring some order to that site, notwithstanding it's actually it's a significant application. And actually, not just the storage, which they have got a lot of it outdoors, is because a lot of the stuff is kept outdoors, so they can keep the outdoor storage, but they also do some manufacturing there as well, and it'd be really important to keep a manufacturing business in the town. I did have some reservations regarding the fact there's a new residential building being built near the entrance, but they're losing a residential building as well. And I think it's looked favourably on application, more favourably on applications where there is a net loss of residential. So, with that in mind, I'm supportive of that. I suppose there are no objections from neighbours, so that's important. And I know there's been a lot of consultation between Southern Shooting and some of the neighbours. But I just noticed in the reports there are some comments from the tree officer just to get a little bit better understanding about the replanting, because there are some significant trees that aren't being felled, and just to have a little bit more detail as to the proposed replanting. I think that it suggested it should be more than the number of trees being felled, which I don't think would be a problem for the applicant, but it would be nice for that information to come through. There is also just some comments, just floating out the drainage issues, and again, I think that might be able to be dealt with the conditions, which was one of the points raised before, and also the ecology. I think one of the buildings that was originally retained is moderate for bat roosting and is not now being retained, and so they said there's some further work to be done. So I don't anticipate any particular problems with the applicant being able to demonstrate those points, and on the basis that they are able to demonstrate that, then I don't know, I'd be happy to approve the application, but for the stuff I wouldn't have any objection at this time, but I hope they will follow up on the points that are raised on the planning portal to find information that's required.
Thank you, Councillor. So, if there's no other comments, should we go to a vote? All those in favour?
Is the vote subject to?
Sorry, yeah, let me be clear. We're recommending for approval subject to.
What I've got, Chair, is the committee noted this was not a greenfield site and the design was sensitive to the environment. Subject to no adverse report to the outstanding ecological surveys and landscaping trees, subject to satisfactory responses, committee would support the application.
Okay, so let's go for a vote, please. Thank you. Right, moving on to our second and final application. So this is DN 233244, so this is land to the rear of 43 Hurst Farm Road in East Grinstead. And this is the erection of 4 residential dwellings together with vehicle access, car parking, amenities, landscaping, and demolition of the existing stables, I wouldn't call them stables, but anyway, and outbuildings and the closure of existing access. There will be new access put in, or rather different access put in. I know this area very well because I live the other end of the road, as mentioned before. But for those that don't know, this is the bottom of the sort of Turners Hill roundabout going up to Turners Hill. So the old southern, or the current southern sheeting we were just talking about, the old site is up here, and obviously you go up, is it West Hill up to the town, and that's Hurst Farm Road, and that's Brooklands Way, Brooklands whatever, up to the Sainsbury's roundabout. So the applicant's house is here, and this is the land directly to the rear of the applicant. It's sort of shrubland at the moment. It was quite high, I think about COVID time it was cut down. It's worth noting there's a public footpath that literally goes behind all of these houses. And actually at this point, and something I'll mention in a moment, it does get very wet around here. Plenty of times you need wellies to get along there, I've found. The entrance currently is here, and I think Brook Farm entrance is this one here, and not shown, I don't believe, on here is it Manor Hill, Hills Farm, that new development is just up here, so that's not shown. Yeah, just thank you. It's just shown up here. So hopefully everybody understands where they are on the left there, and on the right you can see the existing, either that's the footpath of the river, but either or they're next door to each other because one follows the other, and you've got an existing pond here, which is part of the planning application, but they're not actually planning to do anything with it other than, I imagine, tidy it up in terms of that. So that's in relation to the location. This is a view. So this is the house, and this is important, I would say, when we come on to the next slide. So just note, this is what the applicant put in as a photo. So really heavy trees, shielding here, heavy trees here. So kind of looks fairly secluded, you would say, and arguably, not visible from the road. It would be difficult for these people in these houses to see it. Likewise, there's houses going all the way along here. On the top left is actually a photo from the house, one of these houses here, and I think this shows a slightly different picture. Look at the trees now compared to how they were shown in the applicant. I suspect they're the shots taken from 2017 when this was first put forward for the application. Likewise, the view, or the sort of view of this will not be able to be seen. I think we can clearly see here, this is able to be seen by these houses quite easily. So I think it's not quite what the applicant would have us believe in terms of a nice secluded spot that's surrounded with trees that is sort of hidden from view, and more importantly, in keeping with the atmosphere of natural beauty. In fact, I'll just mention that. So in fact, the area of outstanding natural beauty actually starts any side, this side of Turners Hill Road, and directly behind these houses. So this whole application is actually in the area of outstanding natural beauty, albeit right on the border of it. This is showing the development. So it's 4 very substantial houses, units. We'll see some photos in a moment. And then the pond that's currently there that will no doubt be landscaped. Again, I'm not so sure that these trees are quite as expansive as shown on this diagram. And the entrance again is the same entrance. Well, I say the same entrance. There's been an entrance proposed just slightly up from the entrance to where the footpath is. So the footpath runs all the way along here currently. I think from this point here, I think it runs all the way along. Councillor Peacock.
I'm sitting in front of, I do apologise, I was just flagging, this site was rejected at appeal a couple of years ago. It was a large application, so
Sorry, that's Councillor Peacock stolen my thunder.
I do apologise.
Of what I'm now showing, which was the 2017 application. So, it's worth noting that the plot itself is the same. But then instead of having 11 individual houses, they're having 4 massive ones. So, depends on your view for that. I would say the only difference in terms of what they're not building on, or rather the space they're not building on, is purely this first small plot here. Apart from that, I would suggest that the amount of actual size of buildings, albeit we're going down to from 11 to 4, is actually the same space. So that actually gives you a sense, and that was rejected on appeal back in 2017. I wasn't on the committee back then, but I think maybe a few of you were.
Yeah.
So this is the way that they would have us believe the kind of view is, and how it would be sort of sunken in. It is in a bit of a valley there. There is a bit of a dip there, I'll give them that. But I think we can clearly see that the height and the view is not quite as separated as they would have us believe. I think this also gives us kind of the spacing of the properties. So again, I think it is 4 very large and very nice, I'm sure, if they were to be built properties, and it gives you a sense of the sort of spacing between them. Again, the height, I think on the back is fairly realistic, as it is an upward slope if you were to go into the back gardens there. Again, this just gives you a sense of the buildings, contemporary, contemporary design. My personal view is out of keeping with all the other buildings around there. It's not a secluded site, they're going to be seen, in a different place. I would not object necessarily to the design. I think it looks okay to good. However, I'm just not in keeping with the rest of our houses on that site. And again, this is just showing that area. Again, we're just going to go through the types of houses. So I think there's unit 1, and then there's a couple of unit 2. So again, you've got this kind of 3-layered house with the sort of ground floor and then a sort of top balcony. So you can imagine they're going to be quite expansive, sort of a carport, room for 2 cars. And this does give a sense. I think they might be slightly over dramatising the height, but there is a rise at the back. So the view from the back, yes, I agree. You may not be able to see much of the houses, but there's pretty only much Manor Farm that's behind. So there's only really one neighbour who I didn't see an objection to on the website. And again, this is the last of the units, unit 3 and unit 4. So I personally quite like that design, but again, I'm not sure in keeping with that particular area. So that's me running through. So I think this is East Grinstead South. So I think Councillor, I forgot to say his surname, Councillor Scott. Thank you, Councillor Scott. If I could ask you to comment, please.
I've actually been down and looked at this. I did know that there was going to be 11 houses, gone down to 4. I don't think these type of houses are in keeping with the houses within that area at all. I just think they look too different to anything else that's been built down that road. An estate has got its own feature and has been there for many years, very sympathetic housing features. This is far too modern for that area, and I just think they look, well, I personally don't like the design of them. Perhaps if they were on a place all on their own, but where that's situated, I would say it's overdeveloped and out of keeping, and I couldn't support this.
Thank you. So is that a motion for refusal?
Yes, it is.
Can I have a second for that? Thank you, Councillor Peacock. Any other comments? Councillor Peacock.
I'd agree with that. It's, as you said, I mean, the scale of buildings are similar to before in terms of the actual space used. I do think it's doesn't adhere to the design guide in terms of overall design, street design. I don't think it fits in. And as you say, with the tree, with the lack of coverage with the trees, etc., I can't really see any reason to vary the the decision appeal in 17th person.
Thank you, councillor Mrs. Dawson.
Thank you. One of the main arguments back in 2000 year dot was the using the Turners Hill Road, the entrance and exit there. Now, given there's only 4 properties, but they're such a size that I beg to think that there would be almost as many cars belonging to those large houses that would have been with smaller dwellings. And it was of significant concern that the entrance so near to the roundabout at the bottom of Turners Hill Road was likely to be a problem. So I just draw that to people's attention that it was then, and I don't think it will be very different today.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think the kind of, we've already got the large development here already turning onto Turners Hill Road. We've now got extra traffic moving onto that, and plus they're going to be turning on other sides of the road. So potentially you've got one turning right or left out there, and somebody just up the road turning right or left. And we all know, and I know there's an application to reduce the speed limit to 30, but coming down that hill, I think we all know it's very hard to keep your speed down if you're not paying attention or got your foot on the brake and pick up speed. So I think personally, I do have a concern that they will need to look at that junction at the very minimum in terms of the sightlines around that.
And certainly with the roundabout, it's actual distances.
It's a very short distance. Councillor Whitaker.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, I think, Councillor Peacock, with the appeal decision. This is in A or in B, as you said, albeit just, but you either are or you aren't. It's a greenfield site, so the protection that is afforded for A and B is there for a reason, and this has no mitigating circumstances, i.e. existing plots, not a brownfield site. It's a totally greenfield site. So, you know, we've had a lot of development, obviously, in the immediate vicinity opposite Hill Place Farm, which is not in the AONB, but immediately adjacent to. And this would set, in my opinion, a dangerous precedent for, if this was to be granted, for further creep of development into the AONB, immediately around and beyond. So for that reason, also on the portal, there's a very interesting letter from the Upper Medway Drainage Board to do with drainage and sort of flooding, which basically seeks the applicant, before any approval is even thought about, to apply to them with full technical details, which I don't believe they've done because there's no acknowledgement of that. And it's just a very interesting point. As you mentioned, the applicants say this is in flood zone 1, but I don't think that's correct. And I think that the letter from the Medway Board is basically saying they've got serious doubts about this because it's that stream, you know, we know where it goes, we know where it comes from, and we know it does flood. That culvert does get blocked and it does flood on the Turners Hill Road. So, but the AONB, the appeal decision, I think we need to give it protection. So,
thank you, Councillor Whitaker. Just on that, I can just double down on the fact that floods regularly, and not even in winter. We're talking after, you know, just a couple of heavy downpours. Thank you. I think Councillor Motley was first.
Thank you. There's an environmental study on the portal, which I delved deep into. They'd only had a desktop study for this, which, there you go. So existing ecological and nature conservation data was used. But it didn't say in there that there is a limited risk that great crested newts may be present in the on-site pond or have colonised the off-site ponds in the period since 2014. So I think the least we can do is actually request a new environmental study that is more relevant, with particular emphasis on the stream and indeed bats, which we seem to have roosting on the site. And also the scrub hedgerow, which when you get to the arboriculturists thing, they just want to rip them out. These scrub hedgerow bases at the site provide suitable habitat for the great crested newt during their terrestrial phases, and potential breeding habitat is provided by the pond situated on the south of the site. So And also, in order to ensure compliance with nature conservation legislation, it is recommended that a great crested newt habitat suitability order is carried out, which is called an EDNA. And the EDNA survey runs from the 15th of April to the 30th of June. So it's pretty specific. The other thing, there was one or two, he suggests bat and bird boxes on site. There is an oak tree on the western site boundary, which he insists be retained, as any old trees may be the subject of soft felling, which is the progressive removal of features potentially supporting roosting bats under the supervision of the suitably qualified ecologist. Such features then are gently lowered to the ground where they're inspected, left overnight prior to the removal in order to allow bats present to escape. So I looked at the arboriculturalist's report as well, and he suggests a pre-commencement meeting of developers, tree surgeon and local planning authority tree officer on site. No mention of the ecology chap to be there either. So I think we must insist that if they're going to have a site meeting about the trees, that the qualified ecologist is present. And they also want to use lots of herbicides on the site. Well, being there's a water course there, I would be very much against that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And something I forgot to mention, when it was went to appeal before, there was actually a survey done, an ecological survey, which actually identifies slow worms and grass snakes on site that were quite substantial. And that was actually only came available when it went to appeal, and was one of the reasons DP 37 as to why it was objected to. So I think we can see a similar pattern here, albeit with maybe bats as well included on it. So thank you, Councillor Notkin.
One thing I forgot to mention actually was this public footpath. There is a bridle path, and I actually walked it during the pandemic with you, and it's a really nice walk, and it brings you out at Dundas Mill.
It does indeed.
It does. Is that going to be retained?
It is, yes. So they are going to retain that whole footpath and probably actually improve it, but I don't think that. I think personally, I'd rather walk around. The whole point is back to nature. You see the area outstanding on natural beauty, you walk across that, and you feel like you're not in a town. You feel like you have entered the countryside. So they are retaining it. Obviously, for this stretch, it's like walking down an estate. You're not actually walking down a public footpath in the area of outstanding natural beauty. You're walking down beside a driveway, but they are retaining it.
Not that I'm supporting it, but I just want to know if they had any inclination to keep it all. That's fine.
Thank you. So I think just picking up, so I think we talked about, I think EG1 is area of standing natural beauty. So I think we're focusing on that. I think there was challenges around the design, which was DP 24. Somebody will keep me honest on this. And I think preventing coalescence, again, this was seen as a strategic gap between East Grinstead and Crawley, and one of the reasons for that was the area standing out in natural beauty. So I think that's EG2A. I'm sure there's loads of other acronyms.
DP 38, maybe, design guide, design buildings with architectural integrity and a sense of sense of place. You may want to consider that.
Thank you. And then I think it's DP 26 overdevelopment. I think basically the plot of land is not really suitable either for that size of building. So I think we've got a motion to object or refuse, that's the right word. Do you want to, Clark, do you want to read back all that lovely stuff?
Okay, this is what I've got. Committee noted the site is an AONB, although right on the edge of this. Committee noted this was a returned application, reducing the number of houses from 11 to 4. Committee felt the design of the homes will be out of keeping. If they were better secluded, this would not cause the same concern. However, on this site, it is too different. Committee note that one of the objections to the previous application was the exit onto Turners Hill Road near the roundabout. The larger homes are likely to have a large number of cars, and traffic will still raise that concern. Relevant policies. The MSDC Good Design Guide, EG1, EGTA, and 39. I can't remember, must be too deep now. And EG3. DP 24, DP 26 and DP 39. The design is not good in this space, as an AONB in this application will simply allow throughput development. There were concerns as to the Medway Drainage Board response, which needs clarification to be satisfied. Committee also noted the ecological report was a desktop study relying on some out-of-date material. This needed updating to ensure bats, newts and other species were suitably protected. DP 37 also relevant. Committee recommend refusal.
Wow, well done, Town Clerk. So,
That's what I'm here for.
so I think we've got a motion for a refusal. Can we have a vote on that, please? I'm hoping Tony's voting for his own motion. Sorry, Councillor Scott. Fantastic, thank you. So that takes us to the end of the committee. So the next meeting of the planning committee will be held on Monday, the 19th of February 2024, and I'm closing the meeting at 7:46. Thank you.
So this one fix the paddleboard.
Yeah, I thought that was doing it.
Decided to.
Councillor Scott.
Well, Jenny, well.
Thank you.